The BJP government in Uttarakhand has tabled the Uniform Civil Code. And while it will take time to go through 800 pages of that document, certain traits, certain details have emerged that are already causing a controversy. I'm Barkha Dutt, here with the Mojo story. The UCC bills proposed rules for live-in relationships, that is, relationships that exist outside the purview of marriage, have become a huge talking point already. The bill was tabled in the Uttarakhand Assembly today amid chants of Jai Shri Ram, Vande Mataram, and Bharat Mata Ki Jai. It's an 800-page document submitted by a panel, a five-member panel that was actually headed by a former judge of the Supreme Court. But there is one part of this proposed legislation that has already got everybody talking. And that is the part that relates to literally policing the personal. The bill argues that if you are in quote unquote a live in relationship, then you need to register that relationship. There will be a website that will chronicle all such relationships. And guess what? If you do not register this relationship, you are liable to pay a fine or even face jail time. On the progressive side, a child from such a union will have full legal rights, even if the child is born outside of marriage. Now, there's a lot to unpack here. The UCC itself is a political hot potato. The idea of a UCC is a very complex one. But today on the program, let's confine ourselves to what we know so far. Policing live-in relationships. Introducing our guests on the program today, Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate at the Supreme Court, is with us. Joining us is Zakia Soman, a well-known women's rights activist at the front line of the reform in Muslim personal law, especially when it came to divorce laws. And Dr. Ranjana Kumari, one of India's best-known grassroots feminist activists, is also with us. Before we come to the exact specific points that are in focus for the purpose of our program, just a glimpse of what happened when this legislation was tabled in the assembly amid chants of Jai Shri Ram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai, and Vande Mataram. Take a look.
माननीय अध्यक्ष जी, मैं आपकी अनुज्ञा से समान नागरिक संहिता उत्तराखंड विधेयक 2024 को पुनर्स्थापित करने हेतु सदन की अनुज्ञा चाहता हूँ। माननीय जी, माननीय अध्यक्ष जी, मैं आपकी अनुज्ञा से समान नागरिक संहिता उत्तराखंड विधेयक 2024 को पुनर्स्थापित करता हूँ।
प्रतिज्ञा विस्तृत की जाए, प्रतिज्ञा दे दी जाए।
That video, interestingly, released by the official handles of the Uttarakhand government and set to a track of music there. Now, on some of the key aspects that have become a talking point, the regulation of live-in relationships. Ranjana, I'd like your first thoughts. Obviously, the state government might well argue, A, that this is a legislation that has been prepared basis the inputs of an expert panel headed by a former judge of the Supreme Court who happens to be a woman. They may even argue that this is to protect women. This is to give women protection in relationships that may not be legally solemnized by marriage. But there's a thin line. I mean, in the age of Tinder and Bumble and consenting adults choosing all kinds of relationships, I'm not sure that we should be looking at this as benevolent. This could give an excuse for the police to quite literally enter your bedroom. Dr. Ranjana Kumari.
Yes, Barkha, I think not only that she is a woman, she is also my namesake, Ranjana, Justice
That's
Ranjana
right.
Desai.
That's right.
So I think it's important to see, Barkha, and painstakingly they have tried to legislate every human relations. I mean, in terms of course, it's all covering marriage, adoption, all legal rights of women and children, and a lot of these issues, inheritance. So all that belongs to the personal law domain, which could not be resolved at the eve of independence, and they were all codified into personal laws. They've tried to bring it all together. Now the whole thing is that you can't legislate certain things in the manner, and you can't penalize. So there is a lot of emphasis. If you don't register your marriage within 10 years, of if you married 10 years within that period, if not registered, you will pay 25,000 fine. In the live-in relationship, it's actually laughable. You can't just really say that within 1 month of live-in relationship you must register. If you
Yeah.
don't register, either you will be, as you rightly said, either you will go to jail or you will pay 10,000 rupees fine. So
Yeah.
you can't, because live-in relationship is what, two people living under the same roof start to have physical relationship, start to have sex, or it is just falling in love. And today only one group of young people walked into my office and said that, ma'am, now if we fall in love we have to register first. Within a
Yeah.
month of our falling in love we must register. So I think this is something which needs to be really looked into very carefully, because you cannot. And also then to bar certain, put certain bars, such people can can go into relationship, certain people cannot go into relationship. If really we go by how human mind functions, how human heart functions, and this whole love around us, and we are, how can you really say that such and such person can fall in love and can start living together, and such and such person cannot? A married person is absolutely not allowed to fall in love and start living with another person. What kind of how can you legislate it, and how can you really create punishments for such this thing? I think legal experts are sitting here. I want to hear
I'll
from them.
I'll come to
This
I'll come to Sanjay in just a moment, but Zakia, the argument is going to be this is all for the protection of women. This is actually a paternalistic law. ये देखिए, we are so progressive that हमने बच्चों को भी, children from this union, by the way, that's a good thing. Children born from this relationship have full legitimacy. The idea of an illegitimate child, a bastard child, is now buried in the past. I support that aspect, but it seems confused. Even if you assume for a moment that the intent is honorable, there is a very, very confused and almost moralistic expression of this. It's like a moral police.
Uh, yeah, that's right, Barkha. At the heart of Uniform Civil Code, when it was conceived, by Nehru and Ambedkar, etc., at the heart of it, it was about gender justice and gender equality. But unfortunately, in today's time, it has got hugely politicized. Uh, it could be a really good means to take our society forward, provided we keep in mind that the goal of gender justice. Here it is more it appears, especially the living section, it appears more about police wanting to police society. A punitive mindset is displayed here. One would want to give all dignity and all legality to live in relations and the children who come out of such relations. Definitely that will be a step forward. But here it is, it is viewed with a lot of suspicion and with a mindset that of moral policing, as you rightly said. So I think this whole manner in which the subject of UCC is being approached presently is problematic, and that is unnecessarily causing conflict within the communities also. It's raising a lot of fears in the minds of communities, particularly minorities. It's also become a means to voice a kind of triumphalism or a kind of majoritarianism on the part of those who are supporters of the ruling dispensation. So it's the a noble objective is getting utterly diluted. But having
Yeah.
said, I would say that this draft has certain, at a very cursory look, it has certain good kind of provisions. But yeah, overall, when we look at it, we cannot kind of overlook such a major thing as, and living relationship have to be, they have to seek permission from the registrar. to be into live-in relationship. Not
Yeah,
just
you
you
have
have to
to.
register it, but you have to also seek permission. The registrar may deny that to you. As far as my cursory understanding goes,
my
yes, you
my my
seek
un-
permission.
my understanding is if either your partner is married, already married, and by the way, there are any number of people who are separated but have not yet got a divorce, so would technically still be considered married. So if your partner is married or living with someone else, you will not be recognized or allowed to register your marriage. Sanjay Hegde, I think, as Zakia Soman says, gender justice has been the goal of Uniform Civil Code. Our constitution does recognize it as a goal to aspire to, the UCC. There may even be some good intentions in the minds of Justice Desai, who helmed the panel that handed over this report. But it seems very muddled. The good intention seems to have been overtaken by a very, very puritanical mindset about modern love.
Not only puritanical, a very bureaucratic mindset. When you
Hmm.
see the provisions, it almost looks to me that like I'm renting a house. That's the kind of thinking that has happened. Look, a live-in relationship means a relationship between a man and a woman, hereinafter referred to as partners who cohabit in a shared household through a relationship in the nature of marriage, provided that such relationship is not prohibited under Part 3.
Yeah.
Shared household means a household where a man and a woman, not being minors, live under one roof in a rented accommodation or in a house owned jointly by owned jointly or by any one of them, or accommodation. See, my
Hmm.
point is simple. There is also freedom of conscience in this country.
Yeah.
There's a whole host of men and women who say, look, I don't want to get married.
Yeah.
I may decide to live in with somebody, or I may not decide to live in with somebody, but it is no business of the state. And the
Hmm.
state can't say that you can't live in with somebody unless you first submit a statement of a live in relationship,
Hmm.
and which is a jointly signed statement to the effect that a man and a woman are in a live in relationship or intend to enter into such a relationship, submitted to the registrar in the prescribed manner for registration in accordance with the provisions of Part 3.
And
Or
you are reading out from the bill at this point.
yes, I'm reading out from what I'm told is the text, and it's been doing the rounds on social
Yes.
media already.
Yes.
So I'm reading out from this bill. So, like I told you, it is almost like the two people are intending to maybe share a rented accommodation, and each one is getting into a legal relationship. The essence of a live-in relationship is a desire not to formalize. They, the thinking behind this is that you cannot have any other relationship except a formal relationship.
Yeah.
Either you marry, or if you don't marry, please go to a registrar and register your relationship, and the registrar may go on the basis of your statement, ask so and so a lot of questions, and then decide, I'm going to permit you to live in.
Yeah.
Sorry, get out of my bedroom, get out of my life. You're not wanted here.
So
i
what is the
do
le-
hope i
what is
do
the
hope I do hope that the young people of India who have decided to live their own lives just tell the government, please get off our backs.
Sanjay, what is the legal recourse? You say sorry, get out of my bedroom. But very briefly, is there a legal recourse before I go back to Ranjana?
Well, legal recourse, there always is. As and when this becomes an act, maybe it can be challenged. It can be challenged for violation of the fundamental rights. But then, since it's a local act, it would have to be challenged first in the Uttarakhand High Court, and
Yeah.
and there are several uh, fundamental rights which get infringed, including the freedom of conscience that I spoke about. It may also be that somebody may hold that this is manifestly arbitrary. So I do anticipate legal challenges.
Okay, I want to take this back to Ranjana. Legal challenges is a long, drawn-out process. This could become an act, it could become a law, and guess what? In my understanding, it also applies to residents of Uttarakhand who may be living outside of the state. Yeah, from what I have understood, the bill seems to, at least the bill that we've accessed so far, seems to say that. Ranjana, this is going to be rationalized in the name of protecting rights of women. The Supreme Court former judge who's headed the panel will give it a certain kind of legitimacy. Dhami's government will say, we have gone by a senior judge.
Well, a senior judge does not mean that every nuance of how social relations happen, or what kind of a young generation we are now. After all, this is the same society. Our young people are not going to agree with these kind of legal boundaries drawn around relationships. I don't think that's going to happen. Uh, I'm sure on the constitutional rights, this is going to be challenged. I'm sure young people will take this up and are going to challenge it. But at the same time, the most difficult part of it is, how can you penalize something like that? If for everything you are asking for a penalty, how can you really literally do this? And secondly, also, in a country, and as you said, 800 pages, when we will read it, we will, and maybe Sanjay knows, and he's with all his legal mind, he understood it faster. But imagine 80% of almost semi-literate or literate population of women, how are they going to understand? And this is not only one thing. This is about inheritance. This is about children. This is about so many things. It's such a cumbersome, such a detailed out document with so many unrealistic expectations from society like ours. So as rightly said, that we've demanded uniform civil code actually in the women's movement. Common civil code used to be the wording that we used to use, and later
Yeah.
we realized that no, this could be a very dangerous thing for really can be used against certain communities, certain religious groups. It can be certain, and I think we are seeing that danger coming very close with the when you read the
No,
whole
I
thing.
think I think you made a very important point that the feminist movement has supported a quote unquote
Common civil,
secular family law, right? On
yes.
divorce, on marriage, equal rights for men and women. And Zakia, I'll bring you in on that point. You said that even here there might be some good points. What stood out to you as some of the good points? If I can come to Zakia, please.
Yeah, Barkha, since we have been demanding codification of Muslim family law for a very long time, because Hindu women and Christian women have the benefit of codified family laws, which are not, enjoyed by the Muslim women. So, in that sense, there is an indirect kind of good provisions here. There is a polygamy is getting ruled out here. If you look at the which marriages are void, if you look
Yeah.
at that definition, then they will state sapadi marriages, nikah marriages, even marriages done under the Anand Act, so cannot be done where there is an existing spouse. So polygamy is getting ruled out. Then divorce procedure is becoming if this were to become law, then the divorce procedure is also that unilateralism is going away. So there is an hope that it will be fair and it will be mutual, on both sides. There is also the question of custody and guardianship of children. Here it's talking about both mother and father in the best interest of the child, and it's also categorically saying that children below 5 should be in mother's custody. Also about share in property and inheritance. So it's here, it is in this document, and again, all based on a very cursory look. I have only taken a very, a quick look actually in about less than an hour. It
Yes.
talks about heirs, daughters, sons, both, without giving a higher portion to son. It is giving equal portion to both the, irrespective of gender, to all the children. So these are some, and also registration of marriages. I see it is difficult. It's not possible for large sections of our society. They are poor, they live in far-flung areas, they are not even informed, they are not aware, they don't have the means. But eventually, registration of marriages should be a good thing going forward. So there are some positive provisions, but yeah, overall, everything has to fall in, and it doesn't have to be so antagonistic. It has to be in the right spirit. The spirit is what matters.
Yeah.
It should not be like, we are trying to show the minorities their place, the triumphalism, like the slogans which were raised, which
Yeah.
was, which were just now showed by Mojo Story. So it's
Yeah.
about those things.
Sanjay, let me bring you in. Yeah, sorry, Ranjana, you wanted to say something?
No,
Yeah.
I just wanted to read out three very good provisions here. It abolishes all kinds of distinction between legitimate, illegitimate children, as you rightly said. It gives equal right to women and daughters in the property. Now, of course, for that we have to change the property rights laws. I mean, you can't just make a statement or make a law which is not really incumbent upon the other piece of legislation. So, and then grants equal property rights to spouses and children upon the death of a parent, also extending to the deceased parents. So I think these are some of the very good things that is happening, which is very clear now. There's a clarity about the rights of women in the property, and of course, has rightly bans polygamy, which is going to give relief to a lot of how practical it is, I don't know, because Hindu men are also living with one wife in Bombay and another one in Jaunpur, Balia, Gazipur. I
Uh,
know of the whole of this, so I don't know how much polygamy is literally going to be banned. But certainly, every the law certainly is going to state that now no polygamy for Hindu men were banned, but how many Hindu men are not married for 2 or 3 times and living with all the 2 or 3? So,
uh,
and I know politicians, I know very famous politicians who are doing these things openly. So I think this is something which also is stated,
yeah.
at least in this
I
law,
mean,
that
we have seen it in public life, we have seen it in our extended families, we have seen it in the film industry. These examples abound. But let's come back because as we said, this is a 800-page document, and there are many aspects to it. Sanjay, you said it's puritanical and bureaucratic. It's treating love like renting a house. Ranjana and Zakia listed some of the better intended clauses: equality, gender justice, the equality of men and women, and all the aspects that promote that. Would you support an amendment?
माननीय अध्यक्ष जी, मैं आपकी
Would you support an amended version of this legislation?
Well, in one sense, we now finally have a draft of what a uniform civil code looks like.
Right.
We should, it's a good starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And like as far as live-in relationships are concerned, I think they've got it horribly wrong. There will be various places where they've got it right.
Yeah.
And the idea uh, as to whether every person should be treated alike in terms of marriage and in terms of property, that is also linked to the question of whether law leads society or whether society leads law,
Mm-hmm.
right? The Hindu Marriage Act and as well as the Hindu Succession Act came in a long time ago, but it took judgments of the Supreme Court in 2012 and all to make sure that that women had a right to property. You may here we what has happened is that now there is a draft. A lot of us will sit around, examine it, and specifically if there are concepts
Yeah.
which may impinge on people's conscience. I gave you one example of people who wish not to get married, but equally there may be religious questions with regard to conscience. For instance, what is the concept of marriage? I have not yet studied.
Yeah.
Marriage in Christianity, in Hinduism, is a sacrament. In Islam, it's a contract.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are you forcing everybody to get into a form of only a sacramental marriage? How far would that be valid? We'd have to reread. Maybe in a few days, things will be much clearer.
Okay. I just wanted initial
Yeah,
comment.
just one more
Yes.
thing. You were right about extraterritorial operation. Any resident of Uttarakhand staying in a live-in relationship outside the territory of a state may submit a statement of live-in to the registrar within whose jurisdiction such resident lives. So, Mr. Rawat, who lives in Bangalore, has a live-in relationship there. We'll have to go to the Ashok Nagar police station in Bangalore or the Ashok Nagar sub-registrar and say, please register my live-in relationship? I think
Yeah,
that's
I,
ridiculous.
I think we have to agree that that is ridiculous. I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think both Zaki and Ranjana have pointed to the fact that there could be much overdue corrections in that were needed in common law, in family law, between, especially when it comes to equality between men and women. But I think policing the personal choices of young people, and I think Sanjay very perceptively said, when people don't get married, it's often by choice. It's often because they question or challenge the conventional institution or the conventional definitions. To push them into formalization might be completely counterintuitive. It'll be very interesting to see how young people react to this. But again, it's a starting point for a debate. These are only initial reactions. We all have to go back to our study tables, go through this draft carefully, and come and bring all of you back for a fuller debate. Thank you in the meantime, Sanjay, Zaki, and Ranjana. Looking forward to a deeper debate on this issue, a complex issue, an important issue, but also an issue that impacts each Indian. It may not feel like that. It may seem like some very complex piece of law, but this really impacts how we live and how we love, and who we live with, and how and who we choose to love. So yes, we'll keep the conversation going. In the meantime, thank you. See you tomorrow. Mojo Story has always made a commitment to its viewers to go to where the story is. And as you can see here, we are at the epicenter of the Israel war on Gaza. We are right at the front line, about 1 mile from the Gaza Strip, as the Israeli military gets ready with its tanks and its gunners to begin its final frontal assault that will take troops into Gaza. As we said, we are not like other organizations. We believe in giving you all sides of the story objectively and as much as possible from the ground. And that's exactly what we're doing here, covering the biggest global story today from the epicenter of the war zone. So please, we need your support. Support us, become a Mojo member, subscribe to us, spread the word, and thank you for your support.